Welcome to the Sounds of Encouragement, the place for creatives to find encouragement and support to help you stay motivated, creative, and inspired to use your craft to more fully impact your community. Thank you for tuning into this episode, and don't forget to subscribe so you get notified of future episodes. If you find value in these podcasts, please share with friends or colleagues. To keep this production ad-free, please share your support at www.buymeacoffee.com/encouragement and share a one-time gift or check out the member levels. I'm your host, Melissa Slocum, and I thrive on encouraging other creatives through teaching music, small business coaching, podcasting, and so much more. Find out more at www.musicgrow.com and subscribe to be part of a growing creative community supporting one another. Don't forget to check out the links in the show notes. And remember, I'm here for you, so you can be there for those who need you the most. Enjoy the show. Donna Hughes has written north of 500 songs. She has released 6 albums containing mostly original material. Nominated for Songwriter of the Year in 2024 and 2025 for the SPBGMA Awards, her songs have been recorded and performed by multiple Grammy winner Alison Krauss and Union Station. Grammy-nominated band, the Seldom Scene. Wyatt Rice's solo album with vocals by Dalen Bradley and Russell Moore, Caroline Owens, the Snyder Family, Kati Penn, Kim Robbins, Linda Lay, Wilson Banjo Company, Amanda Cook, Darren Beachley, AJ Lee and the Molly Tuttles, Grass Country, Carlos and the Banditos, Nu-Blu and the 2004 country Colgate Showdown winner Heather Shelley, as well as Bria Kelly of The Voice and America's Got Talent, Newtown, and various other artists, both well-known and undiscovered around the world. Donna recently received a Lifetime Achievement Award and an award for her Naomi Wise video at the Sunset Film Festival. She wrote the words and music for the Naomi Wise song based on the life of a girl from her area who died in 1808. The video features Jenee Fleenor on violin, who was awarded the CMA Musician of the Year for the last 4 years in a row, who also was the first female ever to win. In 2014, Donna was awarded the key to the city of Trinity, where she resides, from the late Thomasville City Councilman Jesse Hill as a gift of honor for all of her accomplishments. Donna's songs have been written about every subject, from being stuck at Walmart to dogs on chains. She tries to balance life through song from the spectrum of emotions life has to offer, from hilariously funny to extremely sad. Donna has also judged songwriting contests and conducted songwriting workshops around the nation. Donna's career received a huge boost when the late and legendary Tony Rice approached her about producing an album for her, which he did, entitled Gaining Wisdom. Her next CD after that, Hellos, Goodbyes, and Butterflies, was produced by the late and extraordinary J.D. Crowe. Donna's more notable appearances have included private performances for race car giant Richard Childress, opening for David Bromberg at B.B. King's in New York City, playing the world-renowned music festival Merle Fest, playing the Bear Trap in Wyoming, the Ossipee Festival in Maine, the PBS Song of the Mountains in Marion, Virginia, the PBS program Live from the Denison Lodge in Dubois, Wyoming, multiple performances at the Bluebird Cafe and Station Inn, both in Nashville, multiple times at Eddie's Attic in Atlanta, opening for Marty Stewart, at a premier dinner club near Washington, D.C., known as the Birchmere. Donna has also opened for many country stars, such as Ricky Skaggs at Dollywood, Jerry Douglas, Sam Bush and Tony Rice on their solo tours, Joe Diffie, Gene Watson, and numerous other popular, high-profile people and venues. Donna is an award-winning realtor in North Carolina and enjoys spending her spare time on her granddaddy's third-generation farm with her Belgian horses, her basset hounds, beagles and other rescue animals, and painting barn quilts. Please welcome my guest, Donna Hughes. Welcome to Sounds of Encouragement. My name is Melissa Slocum, and you just heard a little bit about my guest, Donna Hughes. Donna, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you, Melissa, for having me.
Absolutely. So I found out about your work on a fairly new social platform and was able to see your profile, and you had linked in your profile your website and the song that we're talking about today, which is a protest song that you wrote specifically for the time period we were in. And I immediately went and played the song, and just it hit me in the heart and square between the eyes. And I had to contact you right away to see if we could talk a little bit about the song that we're going to talk about today. So this is kind of a very special episode because as much as this podcast is about encouragement, I also feel like there's a good amount of challenge in terms of the time period that we live in. And hopefully as people listen to the song and listen to our conversation today, they'll maybe be challenged, but also encouraged to find that common ground that you talk about in the song.
Right.
So before we actually flip over and listen to the whole song, can you talk a little bit about your songwriting journey or your journey as a musician so far?
Sure. It's so long. I told my mom once that as you get older, you collect so many more experiences that you can really get off on some tangents and really bore people to death. So I'll try not to do that. But I grew up around music. My mom is a pianist and she, sings also. My dad loved to play guitar. They were in two different worlds, country. My dad liked country. My mom liked classical. So I was exposed to a wide, range of music. And, I myself have gone through many stages of all the types of different music I've loved. But when I got out of high school, I was always playing piano in the house. Kids today, they text and play on tablets, but I didn't have that. So
right.
I banged on the piano and drove my parents nuts. So, but I liked playing by ear. I liked trying to figure out songs that I'd heard, and I thought it was neat. And when I was really small, I thought everyone could do it, but it was just something over the years I learned. Not everyone can do that, or maybe they just don't tap into it. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But I learned that after high school, I really found enjoyment in creating, melodies and writing. I've always liked writing poetry. So the two worlds collided. Just to tell you how, music has evolved. When I first started writing songs out of high school, we were in the middle of moving from cassette tapes to CDs.
Yes.
Now CDs are no more. Yeah. But those were the days when writers in Nashville could write a hit song and make some real money. For instance, the Dixie Chicks, they put out their first record, which I think they're called something else now. But anyway, when they put out their first album, I just use them for reference. They sold 14 million copies of that first record, Wide Open Spaces. I had a copy. I loved it. So I remember learning that one of the writers say if you wrote one song that landed on that album, even if it wasn't one of the ones that got played, all the songs got equally the same amount. So as a writer of a song on a record that sold 14 million copies, you'd probably get around, depending on if you published it yourself or not, and we could talk about that separately, but it's a whole another world to talk about. But if you got a song on that record, you would be getting somewhere in the neighborhood of between 4 cents to 8.5 cents for each record, for each of those 14 million copies. So if you add that up, that's some good money.
Yeah.
Now the writers today, because music is kind of free, it's online, and you have to wonder how we make anything at all. The streams just don't. I don't know. People just don't get money on the streams. But anyway, music is a different world now. People don't make the kind of money that they did then. And so I had always had this dream that I would write a hit song and redo all these old farm buildings out here that were on my granddad's original dairy farm, because they were all kind of getting dilapidated and in shambles. And I've traveled and sang all over the country. Things happened, or doors opened. I was able to do quite a bit, but I never did write the hit song. No, I wrote a song up on a Grammy winner's album, and it got played at the CMA Awards one year on national TV. So that was kind of cool.
Oh.
But, and I'll tell you which one that was. There's just so many, multi facets to this little journey that I'm on that I don't want to tell you guys so much that it's boring. But I did, my very first experience of trying to pitch my songs was I went to the state fair in North Carolina. I live in North Carolina. I went to the state fair. Patti Loveless was singing there. I had recorded some of my songs that I had written. I put them on a cassette tape. I put them in a gift bag. I set them on the stage. She walked over in the middle of her concert and picked them up. Wow. And she held up the little gift bag. It had a little white West Highland Terrier dog on it. Held it up next to her fiddle player, Deanie Richardson, who now I know. Held it up next to her face and said, "Look, y'all, this gift somebody left me looks like my fiddle player and this little dog on this bag," and making fun, And I thought, oh, yay, it's just as simple as I'm going to have a hit song now. Patti Loveless is going to record one of my songs. And then about 2 weeks later, my heart was crushed as I received the letter in the mail that all songwriters will get. Usually when you get started, and it said, "Sorry, we're not able to accept unsolicited material at this time." And that's how things went then. And they're kind of like that now.
Yeah.
But, I went into the bluegrass world and I made 2 CDs, one after the other, and spent a lot of money doing that. But through that step right there, I was able to get my songs played on a lot of radio stations that played that type of music, that genre. And then through that vehicle, I received word that Alison Krauss, they recorded a song of mine. It got recorded on her Lonely Runs Both Ways album. She won a Grammy for that record, and she sang my song at the CMA Awards that year. So that's how that happened, is through my promoting my own versions of these songs.
Wow. So which song was that?
Called My Poor Old Heart. I'm sorry, I forgot to mention that.
Wow. Okay. Yay.
I forget to mention that in my song. I forgot to mention.
No, that's okay. That's great though.
It just kind of slipped by me there. It's just been such a staple of my career, really.
Yeah.
But it was also the high and the low at the same time in my life, the highest high and the lowest low, because my dad, now this is crazy, but my dad and I were sitting on the couch watching the CMA Awards the year before she sang my song. And I remember looking at my dad's, she came on, she sang a John Pennell song, and it was called Every Time You Say Goodbye. Song I learned. She's 1 year older than me, Alison is, and I was probably 18 or 19 when I started listening to her in my Walkman headphones.
Right. Same.
And, I would ride my horse and listen to Alison Krauss. It was amazing. And I remember looking at Dad, and I loved that song. It was out for a few years before she sang it at the CMA Awards that year. And I remember saying to my dad, "Oh, my goodness, John Pennell's probably having a great time tonight." I said, "Wouldn't it be amazing if she sung my song at the CMA Awards?" And I said that thinking, I'm not even thinking, not even imagining that it could really happen. I was just like, wow, that John Pennell's so lucky. And this was before I even knew she was recording one of my songs. This was before anything. And as the year unfolded, here we are sitting there a year later. But by the time she had recorded it and was singing it on the CMA Awards, my dad and I were then sitting on the couch again. And over the course of the few months prior to that, he had contracted, if that's the word, a brain tumor, the one like John McCain, the senator, had and died from.
Oh, my word.
Glioblastoma. Yeah, we didn't know what in the world's wrong with him. He was acting very strange. He would have functions one day, that next day he would not, and he would have memories. He might be able to talk one day and the next day not, and it would just shift around. So we sat on the couch, and by this time he had lost all, abilities, all functions, all everything. He was just kind of a vegetable at that point. So I sat on the couch watching, her sing my song on national TV with my dad, and tears were streaming down my face because I was like, well, but that's how life is. You're going to have highs and lows at the simultaneously many times throughout life. And it was just something that you just kind of have to think to yourself, how you can be grateful for everything that happens, and just know that there is a, I wrote a song recently called There's a Deadline, meaning there's a deadline for everything. You must simply just really appreciate the moments we have. So
absolutely. So you had a lot of musical influences along the way. And, I've seen heard and listened to some of your discography and music, and seen some of the videos as well. And bluegrass and country is definitely there. It sounds like your mom had some classical influence as well, which I love, the folk, the bluegrass, the country as well. But were there other artists that were also sort of like eye-opening or influential along the way for you?
well, I've had my phases like most people. In general, I've had lots of phases in my life where I would listen to nothing but this and then nothing but that. And as a teenager, we all go through the wild spells of listening to like Metallica, Poison, Roses, all that stuff. And I know that 2 summers ago, was it 2 summers ago? I spent the large portion of my whole summer painting. I had built some decks on the end of the barn dominium, and I have a huge fenced-in area for my dogs, and it's a 3-rail wooden fence. And I didn't want to have to hire somebody, so I got out to do what I can do. But I listened to Jillian Welch the whole summer.
Oh, wow.
And she's wonderful. I mean, she was at Merle Fest when I sang there once, and she's just so great. But what I picked up on is that I can listen to her songs on and on and on and never get tired of them. But what's crazy about Jillian Welch songs, a lot of them, they have a lot of repeating lines. And I had never been one to allow myself to write a lot of repeating lines. I don't know why. I don't know if I just thought people would get bored hearing that line. I don't know. But after listening to her, I came up with a few songs on my own that I allowed myself to repeat some lines. And it actually, it wasn't bad. So it wasn't a bad thing. So I feel like listening to her music influenced me to not be afraid to do repeating lines. So there's that. But I mean, I just go through so many phases of different artists to listen to. Did you actually listen to that Gregory Alan Issakoff song with the Colorado Symphony Orchestra?
I did.
That song makes me feel like I'm flying.
Yeah. So
it makes me feel like I'm flying when I'm listening to it, literally.
We will, if not in this episode, we will get to that song, and I'm going to let you talk about it because we're going to play a little bit of that later on. But
I discovered that out of the blue, I think, like this year.
I'm so glad because there were a couple songs in there that I had never heard before. So we'll get to some of the music in just a little bit. Can we go back to, though, this song that you've written, Divided We Fall? And can you talk, before I play the song, can you talk a little bit about how did that song come about for you? What was your process with that particular song?
Let me go get my notebook.
Okay.
Grab my notebook and I'll show you kind of how the chicken scratch process. And just to kind of answer a question that you may or may not have asked, that you may or may not ask. If I think about the way I think about, here's my notebook. The way I think about songwriting is kind of, it can be summed up by, if you could just envision me, a young songwriter, not anymore, but I'm talking about years ago, out on the road, opening for bigger acts and doing all kinds of songwriter rounds. And there have just been quite a few times, I don't know how many, but all over the place. I know one of them was at the Bluebird Cafe in Nashville when I sang there once. Probably every time I sang there, I think I was there 4 times. But the different places on the road that I would travel and go and sing, I remember just sitting there, doodling with my straw, waiting on my turn, kind of not really thinking about too much. And then a songwriter gets up there and they sing some impactful, really deep song. And all of a sudden I'm in a pile of tears just going, questioning my whole life. But for me, I'm a glutton for punishment. For me, I love nothing more than a song that really hits me and moves me and makes me think about life. And so that as a songwriter, those are the types of songs that I strive to write. So if I'm singing at a winery and I sing a song, I've written so many about my daddy, he's passed away, but I wrote 25 songs about him, dealing with that. And I know that just about every single, I can't think of a time that it didn't happen. I sing the song people are sitting there listening, and they'll always start crying when I sing that whatever song it is about my dad, because I've got more than one. But then I'm always thinking, yes, I did because I want people to feel something when I've written. I'm not usually very impressed very easily anyway, but I'm definitely not impressed. If people get all excited about a song and it does nothing for me emotionally, it doesn't make me happy, sad, mad, or any of that. I just have to have some type of emotional transport. And so here's where I was writing. I think it was on a Sunday. Let's see. February 8th sounds familiar. Back to that date in my phone here. Okay, so February 7th or 8th. So within a 10 days to 2 weeks of me writing these scratchy little words here and mess ups all over the page, within 10 days to 2 weeks, I had that whole video done.
Wow.
From this to that.
Wow.
Because you know why? It wasn't like I could do it all that fast. It's thoughts and feelings that I carried for years, like a suitcase. You're going on a trip, and then you pack your suitcase and you carry it through this airport, and then you got a layover and you carry it through that airport. So for years, I had all these feelings and frustrations and everything packed into this suitcase that I carried around for years. And finally, when I opened it, all the clothes fell out, all the feelings. And this is how come it was so easy for me to quickly get this song written down.
Sure.
And then that's how come it was so easy for me to put that video together, because it was a video that I kind of wanted people to see where I was coming from in my thoughts. I don't want to get into political arguments with people, friends and family. I don't want to do that. It's counterproductive.
Right.
People have their exposure. That is their exposure, and that is what they know. Those are their thoughts and feelings, and we are not going to change anyone's opinion based on their exposure.
Right.
It doesn't matter how we feel or what we've been exposed to. We are not going to change anyone's mind right now. There is no doing that. So the best that we can do is, like you were saying, look for common ground, because that's what the founding fathers did. They had to find common ground. I'm sure that they had all kinds of different opinions then as well. And the thing that has really made it much, much easier for us to get into arguments would be this wonderful vehicle that we find very handy at times, but it's also very detrimental to our relationships at times. And it's this vehicle called a computer, and being online. And just when you go on Facebook and you look at a post, this is what I have to remind myself of every day. Like, say there's a local news station, WFMY, it's Channel 2. It's here locally where I live. There's another one, WGHP, Channel 8. So whatever, they are all supposed to be neutral, but they'll post a news story and it'll say something about the president or something about something political. Right. And immediately the post in response, going down the line, immediately people start attacking each other.
Yeah.
Immediately.
Yeah.
Not even 5 minutes can go by without people getting into a you said, she said, he said, and they're just attacking each other violently sometimes. And so, that's what a lot of people are trying to encourage everyone to stay away from that. Don't feel like you have to respond. Just let it go. It's not going to change your life to respond. It's not going to change your life to not respond. So the best thing to do is just not respond.
Right.
I say we all stop arguing with each other online and just get away from that, because it's not going to change anything.
Yeah.
Nothing was changed.
And I think part of the reason why this song in particular hit me so hard, and I'm going to play it here in just a minute, is I know even within my own family, between my husband and myself, between my son, my daughter, we're all very different people, and we're all different politically. We had different ways that we voted in the last election cycle, and that's okay. But it does make conversations very difficult from time to time, because
it's so hard.
Yeah. And sometimes even a person's vote can be perceived as an attack or as a like taking it personally that someone voted one way or voted quote unquote against someone else. And what we have found as a family that we've had to work hard at is exactly that, finding that common ground. What do we believe at the very bottom of everything else? What can we agree on? What are the basics? What are basic human rights? What are we looking for just from one another? Basic kinds of things. And that is what's opening up the conversations for us. And I know families who are very divided. I know friends who are very divided, neighborhoods who are very divided. And a lot of people have just said, we're not talking. And I respect that. But at the same time, not talking doesn't get us anywhere either.
But yes, it's very tough when you have families, possibly churches, workplaces, friends that have such vastly different opinions. And they're, like I said, you're not going to change anyone's mind. Whoever you're dealing with, whether it's a family or a friend or anybody, whoever you're dealing with, they have arrived at their opinion based on their experiences, their views, their exposure. And we cannot change all of that with one thing we say or anything we say.
Right.
But my song was very therapeutic for me. I'm glad it was therapeutic for you, but it was very therapeutic for me because I wanted to unpack all those feelings, that I've been carrying around. And that's how songwriters do. We save all this up, and then at some point in time, it comes out. So not everything that I think about wanting to unload on the world therapeutically, not every single thing that I want to say comes out in a song. Sometimes it comes out in half a song that I never use, or sometimes it just never works. But out of every 10 songs I write, I might keep one or two of those. If the test for me is if I write one and I can remember how it goes, then it's going to be one that I'm going to have,
Sure. Then it's worth keeping.
If I can't remember how it went, I'm like, that didn't stick in my head. So that must not have worked. But I'm glad. Thank you. I'm glad you liked it. I think a lot of people will, if nothing else, listen to it. And then when they see an angry comment on Facebook or social media, they will walk away. They will scroll on. I hope that we'll have more of that. That's really what I would like to see more of, and myself included.
Yeah. Well, let's take the time right now and let's listen to this song that you have created. I'm going to share screen just for a second here so we can get to this. And we're going to play Divided We Fall. And this is the version you just sent to me, which includes string. There is another version that is not yet.
Longer version. Has the, I didn't know how long it was going to take me to get the musicians to get all their parts on. And I was kind of worried that I just really wanted to get the message out there sooner than later because things were changing so rapidly. And so that's why, and on an 8-minute, and I'm also sure that they probably would have killed me had I sent them an 8-minute song to play on. They would have killed me. And it probably would have cost me what a small car would cost.
Yeah.
But so I sent them the root version, and I said, just take your time whenever you have it ready, just send it. So that's why that version is smaller. I mean, in length, but
so we're going to listen to the audio of that shorter version right now, but I'm going to link the YouTube video, which is the longer version and has the video. So let's really quick, we'll listen to this. Here we go.
Blood was spilled on this ground by those who fought the English crown. Founding fathers by decree, by candlelight, they made us free. Strokes of pens and firing guns, by morning's light, this they had won. Many scars and generations down, we lost sight of common ground. We lost sight of common ground. United we stand, divided we fall. United we stand, divided we fall. Floods, fire, sickness, pain, many facing deadly things. When we're dying, we're all the same, like feathered angels with broken wings. My blood is red, just like yours. Divisions lead to closing doors. My heart beats, yours does the same, and none of us can hide from pain. None of us can hide from pain. And the ground shakes beneath our feet, forgetting what the blood had caused. And the fires of hatred are burning. United we stand, divided we fall. 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 United we stand, divided. Divided we cannot stand. United we stand. Divided we will not stand. United we stand. Divided we fall.
Wow. Wow.
I should take the strings.
Mm.
They're amazing, aren't they?
Yeah, I love that version. That is just perfect. Just perfect.
Thank you.
So
Thank
powerful.
you. I was so happy to have them on that.
You know, when I originally listened to this and thought about the time that we're in, you know, this is March of 2025 right now. And again, we're just experiencing so much in the United States with the current administration. And a lot of people would say this is a protest song. And a lot of people would say, you know, we need more music, we need more protests, we need more like this. And there's sometimes a fine line to walk between protest music and protest versus just music that comes from the heart and speaks truth, but without necessarily being a protest. And I guess I'm curious to see or to try to understand, you know, where does this fall for you? Is this just, again, your truth, your feelings that you've unpacked out of those bags, or is this really protest for you?
Well, again, it was just so much, I guess, stress and pressure and anxiety.
Yeah.
From having so many disagreements, not necessarily just me, but watching so many people that I know that know each other that disagree, and all these people that are being ugly to each other. And I have refrained from lending my opinion on many things, maybe all things. I've really just refrained because I don't want to get into arguments with people,
Yeah.
and have to lose it. So I've just kept my mouth quiet. But I want to mention this song briefly. I just want to mention the musicians that I had on that version.
Yes.
So Jenee Fleenor, she played violin on that. We call it fiddle and bluegrass. So it depends on what song she's playing on what we call it. But she is the 4-time CMA Musician of the Year winner. First female to win it in many years. I don't think she won it this past November, but she won the 4 consecutive years in a row prior to that. And she's a great friend, and I've been knowing her a long time. The first songs that she played for me on any recordings I did were probably 20 years ago. At that time, she was touring with Terry Clark. I think she toured with Martina McBride, and she's just gone up and up and up the ladder in Nashville. She's toured with Blake Shelton. She's been one of the actual house band musicians on that show, The Voice. She has, she's on tour with George Strait right now. She's toured with Steven Tyler of Aerosmith. I mean, she can do anything. She can play classical. She can play just anything you give her. So, the funny story that I have about her is flying her out here to North Carolina to play in my video that I had her performing on a song I wrote called Naomi Wise. It's a legendary story of a girl here in my home state that was murdered in the early 1800s and she's been a legendary person. I mean, they've named streets after her, and supposedly she was like an outcast. But after her murder, her legend lived on, and the people that treated her terribly were wealthy, and they treated her terribly. Their names did not survive at all. So that's the irony. But the song I wrote, Naomi Wise, she played on it.
Okay.
So I flew her out here, and we had bought a little fiddle from a thrift store, spray painted it white. And she was such a great sport. I mean, she plays with these super mega stars all the time. Like she might be on the Opry one night and Saturday Night Live the next. She's literally done all of the shows. She's done Fallon. She's done there's not anything she hasn't done. And here she's flying to my little video in North Carolina and stand her up on a waterfall barefoot in this black gothic dress with this little white spray painted fiddle from a thrift shop. She plays all day long. Plays all day long for this video. She plays all day long. And then the little drone camera crashed in the river.
Oh no.
And all the footage was completely submerged, all river in North Carolina. But luckily we had some resources. We were very resourceful, and we were able to get a dive team, and they recovered the drone and the footage. And the footage made it into the video. But I was so bummed out. I literally was so bummed. I mean, to have that footage that we took all day of her, and she never complained once. And I remember we went out to eat that night. Some of my friends, her and the videographer and their whole crew, and it was really it was the most fun I ever had doing anything.
Wow.
Making that video. But so we went out to eat, and I remember my friend's husband said, "Oh, I'm such a fan of Jimmy Fortune." He played with the Oak Ridge Boys. And I'm such a fan of Jimmy Fortune, and he noticed something online about her playing with Jimmy Fortune. She's a big friend with Jimmy Fortune, so he was talking about him, and she kind of turned her head and made herself look like she was not engaging in anything anymore with him. And all of a sudden on the phone, she goes, "I got a phone call for you." She shoved a phone in his face, and he was talking to Jimmy Fortune.
Oh my word!
My friend's husband was sitting there at the dinner going, "Well, I'm just a big fan of him." He didn't know what to say. He was completely ambushed by that. It was hilarious.
Right? Because who does that?
She didn't call anybody. She could probably call anybody in the world. I mean, she did an amazing job on the violin. And her recommendation for cello, I love the cello. I love the way it sounds.
Yes.
Only I could play one. Her recommendation was a man named Paul Nelson, who teaches at Belmont, and he's very, very good. He's played a lot of sessions, I think, in Nashville, done a lot, but his name is Paul Nelson. So he laid down the cello track, and I am hoping to get them to do a lot more things. I have.
So, going back to like this particular song for you, what do you want people to take away from it? You have some really powerful lyrics in here that if you want to lift up certain ones, great. If not, that's okay too. But we're on shaky ground. We all have the same red blood. We're all going to die, basically. I mean, there's so many powerful lyrics that I just love. What do you want people to take away from this song?
When I hear a song that somebody else has written and it just stays with me for my whole life. And there are some like that with you, with anyone. I mean, there are songs that we always think in their minds, wow, why didn't I think of that? Or, oh my gosh, that's so brilliant. Or, oh my goodness. Or it changes the way you think and it changes the way you feel and can bring you to tears. But that song, I'm super proud of some of those lines. I feel like will be some of my best lines that I've ever written. No, let's see, none of us can hide from pain. That's so true.
Yes.
And the one line you mentioned, which is, when we're dying, we're all the same. And then it shows the little headstones in there.
Yes.
That'll, that's my country friend would say, that'll jerk a tear out of a wooden man.
Right.
I mean, it's true. People would just stop and think. Yeah. Instead of getting up and arguing all day on the social media, think about how short life is. And really, is that what how we want to spend our lives, is arguing with each other on social media? Or do we want to get out and walk on a trail or, make a fire and sit by the campfire? Or do we want to go fishing? Or, there's so many quality things you can do with your spare time, but arguing with people on social media when their exposure is that finite amount of facts. Yep. I don't know. I mean, do we want to try to change somebody? Is that really all we want to work on doing now? It's because it's so unproductive, and we just really need to spend our time. We're all going to die, like you said. It's going to happen sooner or later. So we just really need to find quality moments to share, and if politics sets you off with your family, just avoid talking about it. That's what I recommend anyway.
Yeah. And I think, that's what I wanted to kind of end this time with is, action steps. What can people do if they're in a situation like I am, where it's very difficult because it's people I love dearly, my children, my husband, some of my extended family as well, who have very different ideas and opinions and viewpoints. And it can be very hard to have conversations, even small talk sometimes. And I know, one option is just leave that at the door and not talk about that, but tell me about your life. Tell me about your work right now, or tell me about your hobby, whatever that might be. If you have a particular hobby, tell me about, if it's friends talking about each other, tell me about your children, tell me about your parents, tell me, whatever. And then I think for some people, and I know this is something that we're doing, we are having family conversations once a month where as a family, we all FaceTime and we just ask questions, and we just, there's no judgment. There's no arguing allowed. We're just asking questions to understand, because we do have differences and we always want to come from a place of respect. And so we're asking respectful questions. We're not asking leading questions like, well, why the heck would you believe, we're saying, can you help me understand why you feel this way about this particular issue? Because I'm curious and I want to learn. And that's how we approach some issue-based conversations. And for other people, it may include actually having a third party, like a counselor or some other type of mediator, to help you in those conversations. Because I know, sometimes couples or even siblings may have a hard time. And if you can't have those conversations on your own, you may need a third party to help you navigate some of those topics and learn how to communicate. So I hope that always going to the common ground, will help people see that we really are the same, that we do have way more in common than we have different, and that we're here really to love each other. We're here really just to help each other. And a lot of people talk about, when there's a flood or when there's a hurricane or when there's fires, people don't go to their neighbors and say, well, now, how did you vote, before they offer assistance or help. Right. And I think that's sort of what we need to get back to in life, is we just need to build community in our neighborhoods and wherever we are, and not worry about necessarily how people voted and how they feel on a particular issue before we decide they are worthy, of our conversation or of our time or of our assistance.
Right.
So as you think about, where this particular song, what life it might take on, do you have any other hopes or dreams for this particular song?
Well, I would not be sad if some much larger persons sang it. That would be really exciting. So, I mean, I believe it could fall into many different genre types. I believe heavy metal band could do it. I believe a country band could do it. I believe if anybody wanted to make this song into whatever genre, they could totally do it. So,
yeah. It's very accessible, by the way. And I was like plunking out on my piano. I was like, oh, this sounds like this key and this sounds like this chord progression. And I was like, oh yeah, this is really great. So it is very accessible, very easy to be able to do that. So
thank you. I enjoyed writing it. I had several different melodies that I would pop into these lyrics, and that's not how I've been writing my songs. Lately, I've been recording melodies I come up with, counting the lines for the syllables that match up to those melodies and popping those in. But with this one, I wrote this poem, and it is so messy. And it's funny to me how it changed through the times that I came up with it. But anyway, I had 3 different melodies that I tried with this thing. I even recorded them. I mean, it's hilarious. They're awful. And nothing close to what finally, I don't know. So there's and like I said, I don't read music, so I'm not sure this is going to sound correct. But like when I wrote that song that Alison Krauss did, it was in a C chord, but it had like the E flat. So what is that? C major or C minor?
C minor. Yeah.
C minor. Okay. So I had lots of different strikes at the melody. And then I said, let me try the the minor set. And I started immediately, I took off the minor stuff and I was like, whoa, this is where it goes, and I had that melody family, the family of chords in the C minor, but it was, it's either F sharp. Do you call it G flat or F sharp? I guess it's F sharp, right?
It depends. It depends on what else is happening in the context.
I want to say it's in F sharp. Do you think that sounds correct?
Well, for Divided We Fall, I had it in F.
Okay. Well, I'm going to also have a confession for you. I transposed my keyboard.
Oh, okay.
So that I was actually playing in the C minor. If I had to actually play that in F sharp, I would never be able to do it.
Yeah.
Because I learned, all of us ear players, most of us learn one key first, and C was probably the one. But I think that's what I did. As I transposed my keyboard up into the F or the F sharp, and I played minor chord set. But it wasn't until then that I even had anything click. It just wasn't recording up here. But the first melodies were hilarious. They were so bad. It was so bad. I don't even know why. I think I started in A or something. It was just awful.
But I love that because we don't talk about that in songwriting. We don't talk about all the really bad versions and the drafts that we go through.
And if you do it too many times in the bad sound, then you'll never be able to break that.
Yeah.
They'll be stuck in that, and you'll just throw it away and be like, I can't do this.
Yeah.
So I was thankful that I was able to shed those other sounds that sounded so bad. I was able to shed those. And it's funny. One day I'm going to go back into my phone where I recorded those other melodies that wound up not being the melody. And I just want to have a laugh.
Yeah, exactly.
But that minor stuff won't work with everything either. So it just worked because it was dark sound and haunting. And we're in that kind of time right now where people are needing to just focus and, so way.
Yeah, agree. Well, again, thank you for this really timely, powerful song. The links will be in the show notes for both the YouTube and for just the audio. Or we'll figure that out. I'll make sure that people can link to the song. And of course they can go to your website, which is actually below. So if you click on, or you type in below what you see, then you'll be able to get to Donna's website as well. Donna, just thank you so much for your continued work and for all the great music. And that does it for this particular episode of Sounds of Encouragement. We hope this has been challenging, but also encouraging for those of you who are watching or listening. Thank you, Donna.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That does it for this episode. Everyone, take care. Thank you for listening. Please click on the show notes to learn more about my guest and to listen to their top songs of encouragement. If you have found value in these podcasts, please share the podcast with those you know, leave a positive review, or support the show at buymeacoffee.com. Sounds of Encouragement is a podcast production of Music Grow LLC, part of growing musicians and teachers everywhere. Sounds of Encouragement is hosted, produced, and edited by Melissa Slocum. To get in touch, contact soundoфencouragement@gmail.com. Theme music by Melissa Slocum and Steve Tressler. Music mixed and mastered by Steve Tressler. Thank you to Steve Tressler and Christina Lopriori, who encouraged me to do this in the first place. And remember, I'm here for you, so you can be there for those who need you the most.